folks, to what I am calling a Mr. Rogers road trip. We are in Pennsylvania. You haven't been able to tell by the signs. We're just getting off of I-70 East, going on 79 North, looking for exit 40. Towards Pittsburgh. Basically, this trip, the reason I'm calling it a Mr. Rogers road trip is because each of our stops has something to do with Mr. Rogers, who, of course, was on Mr. Rogers' neighborhood when I was a kid. And our first stop is to visit where he went on a 1984 episode. Is during the week where he's talking about grandparents, and on one of the episodes, I'm not sure what day of the week it was, he took the trolley. Well, he had a book on the trolleys, and then he took his trolley to what was well, it's now the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. Back then it was, I think it was like Arden County Trolley Museum or something like Arden Trolley Museum, something like that. So, anyways, we've gotten a little further off the curb. Shoulder on the shoulder. So, basically this trip was inspired to, well, on the visit from Mr. Rogers, when he came to the museum, he got to view some trolleys and got to ride on one, and then on the way back to the museum, the guide let him run the trolley back to the museum. He was obviously having a good time with it too, because at one point he said, "Oh, this is great," with a big grin on his face as he's running it. So obviously having a good time. So let's see, according to the directions, we make a left after the railroad crossing here. This is, it says here, Pennsylvania and Ohio Central or something like that. So. The crossing signals are going. Let's check the crossing. We recently had a video show up in the news back home in Ohio, crossing just north of where I live, where crossing signals turned off when the train was still going through the crossing. So that is why I never trust crossing signals. So anyways, so basically what inspired me to take this trip is because this year's 50th anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood airing on PBS. And my local PBS station back in Columbus, they had a brief marathon one week back in March of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood episodes. They didn't air the one here at the museum. They aired another one, which is going to be the last stop that we're going to. But I remember there was an episode with the Trolley Museum, and I looked it up, and it turns out it's the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum now, which I've actually been past back in 2003 and 2004 when I went over to vacation over to Gallitzin and Altoona, but never got a chance to stop because they're open on weekends, so I was never over here on the weekends, so fortunately it's which way to go, follow a sign, duh. Didn't realize I had the signs here. It's nice, but anyways, yep, there's the loop. This is across the road here is the east loop, return loop for the museum. They've got a nice long route that they run the trolleys on, and basically back and forth over. Why are we parking along the road, people? Anyways, should be an interesting time, I think. Never really gotten into trolleys, but after seeing their website and everything, I figure it's going to be a nice little trip to check out. Who knows, maybe get to see the trolley that Mr. Rogers got to operate. Although I doubt I'm going to be able to operate it. Up here on the left before the crossing, because the crossing is actually a trolley route. Yep, there it is. Whoa.
Yes, fine. Right over here on the track. Oh, it's the outside. Yeah. Austin. Bye, guys. Stop. Because I said, running around, like, people are in there, like, hanging out. Like, don't run in and out, please. Bye, Austin. Bye-bye.
do believe this is the one Mr. Rogers is on. Yep. Yep, this is the one Mr. Rogers is on. I think it is. At least that picture of them sitting on it is. Actually, it might have been this one. All boxcars. And it looks like a former Penn Central caboose. At least the paint scheme looks like that at Penn Central.
You're riding, or
I'll catch you on the way back.
we're going to do a complete 4 miles.
Okay.
Alrighty, we're going to head off on a 4-mile round trip ride of the railroad. When we come back here, we may transfer to the second car. Either way, we're going to take you up for a tour of our trolley display building. So please keep the little ones in the middle. Please stay seated while the car is in motion, and we'll take you off for a ride. My name is Dave. I'm the operator in the back. George is our conductor. haven't taken the tour of the trolley display building that's hang on here. We're either going to use this car or another car.
For fun on a trolley?
Which is a bonus.
I think that's the trolley you're going on.
Oh, there you go. That's the one he wants to go on.
I don't know. But he's already on.
Oh, they're gonna put us on a different one?
Yeah, I think that's the one they're looking at right now.
Okay. We might be going on the orange one over there, big boy. You can sit on that one for a few minutes.
I hate.
Yeah, I know you don't like the open one. I don't mind it, but yeah, she doesn't like the open one.
You guys are close by?
Yeah. We're close. Probably about another 15 minutes down the road there. So yeah.
This one?
No.
That card.
You're having trouble getting out?
Yes. They're just doing the open one.
They might not. They might be putting us on the orange one.
Not moving though.
Anybody change this over?
Yeah, the headlight's on now, as they said, so they must have. The headlight is on. All right. They can pull back another knot.
That's awesome.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, they might be getting on the orange one.
I think you might be getting on the orange one.
They'll let us know.
All right, folks, we're going to board you from around side the back here. Watch your step, come on board. All right, for those of you just getting on board, welcome to Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. My name is Dave. I'm your conductor on this trip, and George is our operator. We do ask that you remain seated while the car is in motion. If you are near an open window, we ask to keep all your body parts inside. The car is going on 101 years old. Sometimes the windows decide to close on their own. So you'll... This is service car. 10-4.
My mother told me that in the early 50s. And the cars were only 50-something. Yes.
So we've got two more people coming. It's a little weird on these
And
days.
see, I volunteer in the archives.
Oh, there's a birthday today? Okay.
You know these old pictures, and I can read little tiny signs, and then somebody sends you this 2.5 megabyte JPEG, and there's a street sign right there, and I can't tell you what it says.
Like I said, if they're gonna go through the tour, we'll can either walk, I'll see he'll either walk in, or we'll just kind of wait on board, or there's another trolley zipping around, whatever you guys want to do. We're up for whatever, but yeah, I thought the lady said about
There's somebody
every half hour.
can't bury compost.
Yeah,
They
Here you go. Just ask that you remain seated while
There's one in one of these cars that totally torqued somebody off. It was a young millennial type or Gen Xer, I don't know how you describe him, spoiled. And, there was a happy woman in holding a mixer, and it said, buy her an electric mixer, she'll love it. And it really got her torqued off. But that was a 1925 or 6 ad when the appliances were starting to come out, and you no longer had to do it all by hand. 7:30. You ready, Annabelle?
All right, folks, we're going to get off here, and I'm going to take you on a tour of our trolley display building, and then we're going to reboard this car again. So please be careful coming off the car.
Out here. Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah. They're out looking. Yeah, this is their kickoff.
They said there was a bake the last 2 weeks.
Big. For sure, yeah, no doubt, for sure.
All right, imagine when everybody woke up today, at some point you decided to come here, and you all got in an automobile, and we started it up, you drove out on a nice road, and you came here, and not a care in the world. But now it's, the 1800s, and you want to get up and go somewhere that's 10, 15, 20 miles, 5 miles away even. You didn't have the luxury of getting in an automobile. You didn't have nice roads. So you were left with walking, riding a horse maybe, which was okay because you lived on a farm, you lived above your store, your world was very small. But as the 1800s moved on, cities started to grow. Boston alone, in an area of about 1 square mile, had a few 100,000 people living. Well, they slowly started to move out. Cities expanded. Well, how did you get people into the city, out to the city, to work and back? Well, one of the first forms of public transportation were horse-drawn streetcars. In Pittsburgh, they used mules because of the hills and that. But you hitch a couple mules on the front here, and they pull you along at 3 or 4 miles an hour, really brisk speed. But, if you had to go 5 miles, 10 miles, and you were dressed in suit and tie for work, not too bad. But, what's the problem with that? Well, the mules, they wanted fed. You had to give them water. You had to give them breaks. They didn't want to work 12 hours a day. The conductor, he could work 12 hours a day, but the mule wanted a break. And, of course, you had to clean up after them. In larger cities, the cities had thousands of mules or horses pulling these cars around. They smelled, so really it wasn't practical. It wasn't going to take you into the 20th century. Well, eventually what they developed, a man by the name of Frank Sprague, electricity was, just coming around. He developed a system with an overhead wire, had 600 volts DC in it, just like here at the museum. You put a pole on top of the trolley with a wheel on it that went up and rode along the top of the wire, picked up the electricity, went through his controls, and then there were electric motors attached to the axles. And now the car was powered. You didn't have to rely on a couple animals pulling you around. Well, that was great. You're moving faster. You didn't have the mules to deal with. But the first cars were very small. And as you can imagine, when cities were getting close to 500,000 population, the streets were so clogged with these vehicles because they were so small that eventually they needed larger cars. So if we move down the line here, we'll show you just by the turn of the century, these next two maroon-colored cars are turn-of-the-century cars. You can see they're very large, so you could carry a lot of people in these cars. And they were powerful enough that you could couple on the second car that didn't have motors, and you could pull around twice as many people. But what was the problem? Because there's always a problem. There's always a hitch. Well, the motors were very large, and all the other mechanical systems were very large, and that caused the car to be raised way high off the ground. So basically, the floor of the car was about this level. Now you can imagine this car is coming into a stop. Now you all have to get on it. Well, here's your first step. not an easy one. Even if you could do that step easy, if you were a woman, turn of the century, your skirts were down below your ankles. So you had to do the scandalous thing of hiking up your skirts to get on. You had children, very difficult. You had packages. So things just moved really slow. So they needed to find a solution to that. And Pittsburgh Railways worked with Westinghouse Electric here in Pittsburgh, and they developed the type of car that you're riding on now. And it's called a low-floor car. These were then called high-floor cars. So they developed smaller motors, which made smaller wheels, and they could bring the whole car lower to the ground. And if you went to the rear of the car, you'll see how the floor swoops down and back up again. If you get on and off the center doors, you're just 2 steps away from the street. So it made it very easy. That car could come in, the center doors open, the front doors open, people could get on and off real quick. Now you can start moving a lot of people. This car, by the way, you may think this is like a metal car. Now it's predominantly wood, but the trolley company, as more modern cars came in, like the next car that was metal, they put metal siding on it to try to make this car look modern. Kind of funny to think about that. Kind of like putting aluminum siding on an old Insel brick house or something. Well, people not only wanted to move around town, they wanted to get from town to town. In many cases, you would take the train, but the train didn't make a lot of frequent stops along the way, so the trolley companies developed interurban service. And by interurban, I mean they went from one urban area to another urban area. The line that you're riding out here right now is the original right-of-way that ran from Washington, PA to downtown Pittsburgh, which ended in 1953. But this is an example of an interurban car from the Monongahela Railway that ran down through West Virginia. And since you might be on this car a couple hours, they frequently have bathrooms. And you might be traveling to grandma's. Right now, if you do that, you're gone for a week, you throw your luggage in the trunk. Well, you needed a place to put your luggage. So up front here, they had a baggage area, and you could put your baggage in there. It was also an area that if you needed to ship some freight, the trolleys would carry freight. You didn't have UPS or Federal Express to ship your packages, so the trolley companies typically offered freight service either on their cars, or they even had dedicated freight cars. So as we move down the line here, on my left, you're going to see this old wooden car. This has a particularly interesting story, kind of talking about preservation. You know, if I asked you how many, 100-year-old automobiles have you seen today? There's not going to be very many. Yet you just rode up here on a 101-year-old trolley car, and the other car, the open car that's out today, that is going on 107 years old. Well, people repurpose things. The orange interurban car, somebody took it and made a house out of it. These cars, there was a small 2-line trolley company that went out of business in the 1920s. They took their cars, put it out in the woods alongside a nice little stream, and they were like hunting and fishing cabins. They stood there for decades. But in 1972, for those of you who remember Hurricane Agnes coming through, that little stream that was nearby these places turned into a torrent river, and it literally, these trolley cars became boats. They're wood. They just floated away. And the Army Corps of Engineers was just going to burn them, just to get rid of them. Luckily, somebody got their hands on one that eventually came here to the museum. Now, it's a long way from you getting on and taking a ride on it, but also it's preserved. It's not going to be any worse today than 10 years from now. And when we get to it, it'll be here in good condition to restore. We are an all-volunteer organization for the most part, and so our restorations take time because we also need to maintain these cars and everything too. But again, it's a good example of preservation that someday will lead to restoration. So, well, trolley companies were hauling a lot of people, but now you did start to get roads. people started to ride buses, people started to buy cars. Well, the trolley companies kind of were at a disadvantage, especially to buses and cars. First of all, they had to not only build their tracks, but on the city streets where the tracks were located, they had to maintain that section of street. So if you had a trolley line running down in front of your house, great, you think that's great, you know, I can get on it real easy. But a pothole develops right here between the tracks. You call the city up, say, hey, there's this big pothole in the street. And they say, that's a trolley company's responsibility. So the trolley company had to fix and pave and maintain that section of street. And in the winter time, it snowed heavily. There wasn't anybody out there to clear their tracks for them, so they had to maintain fleets of these snow sweepers. They were just dedicated for wintertime snow. They came out, they had powerful electric motors in the body of this car that would spin these brushes around. And these cars would go out and literally sweep the snow off the tracks. So if it's like 1940 and you did have a car and you wanted to get somewhere and it snowed overnight, you went where the trolleys went because you knew the streets would be clean. Well, you know, it's kind of mentioning why trolleys survive. And this is a good example right here. This is a high-floor car. It's kind of the sister car to the one next door that's fully restored and operational. When these cars, when their lifespan was giving out and they were moving to more modern cars, they kept a number of these cars for work equipment. In this particular case, this became a snow scraper to scrape snow off the tracks. And eventually they converted this to be a tow car. So if one of the cars broke down somewhere and you needed to tow it a long distance into the shops, this car would come out and the motors were powerful enough that you could tow a car a long distance. So that's why we're lucky to have this one survive.
Yeah. When you head out, go ahead and leave the lights on. We're working right there.
Okay. Well, you know, by the 1930s, the trolley companies realized they needed to modernize. You know, they had a real mishmash of wooden cars, metal riveted cars. You know, things weren't really looking that good. They weren't a modern operation. They weren't smooth rides. So the presidents got together and with industry, and they developed a modern trolley car. And this is an example of one here. It was called a PCC car for President's Conference Committee. You know, if you look at it, you don't see a bunch of rivets. It's very sleek, modern looking. It had a very smooth ride. It had a lot of rubber built in to cushion the wheels and all the other suspension parts. The seats were comfortable. It attained high speed, smooth ride. The operator operated it with foot pedals. That freed up his hands so that he could deal with the passengers and make change. And he was the conductor, so you just needed one-man operation. These cars were so successful that there were thousands across North America, Europe. Pittsburgh had 666 of these, and cars like of this era design are still in operation in San Francisco, in Boston, and Philadelphia, and they're actually going back in service in El Paso. So they've got some life to them. Just to kind of show you, a demonstration of the electricity here. This is a car from Johnstown. But if I'm the operator, I'm coming in the morning. This trolley pull that I mentioned to you, it's spring-loaded. And you raise that up to the wire, and bingo. Now you've got electric power into the car. Just as simple as that. You then throw a switch to turn on the air compressor. That would operate the air brakes on the car. And then you're ready to rock and roll. If you see signs on the car from, 1920s that say no smoking, they weren't worried about secondhand smoke for the passengers. They were worried about just setting the car on fire because they were a lot of wood on these cars. Okay, well, you see this big yellow car here. It kind of looks like a railroad passenger car. It's actually a trolley car. This was owned by the Toledo Traction and Light Company, and it was their private business car. So if they had to have a business meeting on one of the towns that they serve, they would bring this car in. You had a nice, very attractive meeting area. you had a bathroom, you had a little kitchenette, you even had some places to sleep on this car. This is kind of the corporate jet of the turn of the century. Now, I mentioned Toledo Traction and Light Company. In many cases, the people that owned the trolley companies also owned the power company. So Toledo Traction and Light provided trolley service as well as electricity. In western Pennsylvania, you had the West Penn trolley system, which was also West Penn Power, which survives to this day, supplying power. And in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Railways was owned by the same company that owned Duquesne Light. So it was all kind of meshed in together. And then the other really tie-in is amusement parks. If you go to Kennywood today, that was an amusement park that was actually built by the Pittsburgh Railways Company. It was a little area called Kenny's Woods, and on the weekends, trolley ridership would decline because people weren't going to work. So they wanted to give the people a reason to ride the trolley on Sunday. So at first it started out as a little picnic area, and then it slowly grew. So in Pittsburgh, you had Kennywood and Westview Park in the North Hills, and they were both owned by the trolley companies, as well as many amusement parks across the country. So if you just follow me down this way. So, I mentioned the disadvantages of the trolleys had over buses or cars. You not only had to maintain your tracks, but of course you had to build the tracks. And there's various pieces of equipment used in maintenance and construction. Four of which, it's another snow broom. 3 of which are located here, and they're operational, functional equipment here at the museum. The big green car and this car over to your right, these would carry crushed stone or gravel out along the line wherever you might need it. This car could dump it off to the side, so if things were washing out along the stream bed, we could load this up, dump it off. This car here we load up with crushed stone, and this you can actually dump out right between the tracks. So like earlier in the springtime, we had some heavy rains. Some of the tracks got washed out, all the crushed stone, the ballast washed away. Our volunteer crews like Dan here, they loaded this up with crushed stone, took it out, distributed it along the tracks, and they went out with a ballast tamper and got the tracks back in good shape. Again, all volunteers. These guys are building the tracks, maintaining them. One of my favorite cars at the museum is the crane car. If we need to get new rails, new ties, new poles, any other type of piece of equipment out on the railroad line, we need a way of hauling it out there. And this is a boom that swings around 360 degrees, and you got a hook that can travel the length and up and down. So you can load this with whatever you need and take it out on the line and unload it. And I've got a connection to this car and the dump car. I got pictures of me as a little kid in front of these things. I was fascinated with them then, and they're still operational and vital to the museum. We actually spent about a year restoring this, rebuilding the motors and rewiring it and everything. It's just that important to the museum. So we're going to head out back here. One more thing to show you.
How many cars?
We've got about 40, 45 trolley cars, a dozen or so operating passenger cars, and a half dozen pieces of work equipment that operate. Well, this might be the last surviving trolley station in the country. This was located north of Pittsburgh in Wexford. When it was no longer needed as a trolley station, this became the Wexford Post Office. As Wexford outgrew this as a post office, this became a delicatessen. Luckily, the owners told us that, hey, when we don't want this building anymore, you can have it. Well, that's easier said than done, you know. About $250,000 later, in a year of restoration, here it is. It came down in the body of the building came down in one piece, the roof came down in two pieces. But this was typical of a trolley station. The inside would look a little different, but it was an area that you could buy tickets and wait for the trolley. It was an area for the administration of the cruise and everything to take place. But more importantly, it was also could be used as a freight station. So you had a farm, you had a tractor, and you needed a new carburetor for it. You called up Sears Roebuck in Chicago and said, send me a carburetor out. Well, again, it didn't go UPS to you. They put it on a train. The train came into downtown Pittsburgh. From there, it got transferred over to the railway freight station in downtown Pittsburgh, got loaded on a trolley freight car, taken to your nearest trolley station, and then you rode your horse and buggy down, and you got your package. You know, it's hard to believe that's how it worked, but I thought that was pretty good at the time. You know, it's important to remember if you look at this photograph over here, it tells kind of a lot about the time. This is north of Pittsburgh. You know, these people are traveling by trolley. You look at the women; they're all dressed up, fancy hats. The boys, they've got nice hats. The trolley conductors have hats, ties, vests. Even the guys in overalls, which you know are doing dirty work, they've got ties on and hats. But you know, this is kind of like taking an airplane ride is today. You know, you wouldn't feel comfortable if your pilot came on in a pair of cutoffs and a t-shirt and a baseball cap and said, hey, thanks for flying with me. It wouldn't inspire you with confidence. But you got to remember that these people getting on this car, you know, maybe they're up in Newcastle, and they're going into downtown Pittsburgh. That was a big deal. Go to big department stores. You know, you dress up your best to do all that. Different time. Things have really changed, but this really kind of captures how things were in the early part of the 20th century. So with that, we'll get you back to the car. A reminder, if you haven't taken the full 4-mile round-trip ride, we'll probably be transferring over to the open car, and we'll take you on a 4-mile round-trip ride of the entire system. So, we'll get you back on board.
We travel, is that not part of the system, or what part of it is the transportation?
These seats will, if you want to sit in okay.
Thank you. Yeah, they just don't want to say that, realize it.
So you're not driving back?
Right.
We take turns.
Ready?
Ready? All your center doors.
This way, son.
That was the 1944 strike in August, early August.
Yeah.
44.
Just a little down, wheeling must have been there. Yeah.
Because I had asked, I worked for public transit, and I said, well, what happened here?
Yeah.
About 1955. He said, no rides.
No, so they didn't
But
have any
they hired a black operator and a superintendent of transportation. Told everybody, I want to know everything he does.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you
So
know.
they pretty much kept around him.
going to transfer over to 1758. Or even if you have taken the trip, you're welcome to take it a second time.
Yes. Hey, let's go up on the other one. It'll take us up the other hill.
We'll be boarding 1758 over here.
Thanks so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Want me to change ends or just leave it here right now?
Leave it there.
Two, where'd you pick? Right there? Pick back three. Where do you want to go?
Are people allowed to sit in the very back?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's get you in the center, please. That works.
Oh, there's more in there.
Gotta find a good scene. Now that one's gonna be good.
All right, well, for those of you just getting on board, welcome to the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. My name is Dave. I'll be the conductor on this trip. George will most likely be the operator. If not, it'll be the other way around. Two safety items. We need you to remain seated while the car is in motion. And any little ones, just keep them in the middle. We talked about that, so everybody's cool. We're going to do a 4-mile round trip ride. We're going to bring you back here. And we may still use this car, and then another trip will leave to take you up for a tour of our trolley display building. So after this ride, don't disappear on us.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I thought we were all getting one.
I was hoping
I'm like, how many did she open if she
I wanted one of you young, lovely ladies to bake me a pie.
They got homemade cookies at the fair down there. They're
Yeah, go to the fair. There's homemade pies.
I don't know what's going on over there. Do you have the key? You have the key. Unless it's in a box of it's in this open ammo.
For sure. Talking about the pies and everything else. Yeah.
We got everybody now?
Get started.
Yeah, the whole thing.
How'd you like that stop though? Some people have been here a while.
Huh?
Some people have been here already a while.
Okay, so do we get off for the...
We're going to go farther down, around again, and come back here.
Uh-huh.
And then we'll switch to another car for the tour.
Oh, okay.
Some people have already done that, and sometimes their kids get impatient.
Oh, I see. So we should just stay on.
That's why I did it, yeah.
I'm going to chase you in 3756.
Okay.
Wait at the loop for me, and then I'll bump you out. Because I gotta
okay.
get facing the right.
You gotta reverse it, right?
the trolley display building. We're going to stay on this car and leave at 2 o'clock and take you up there for a tour. If you've already done that and don't want to do it again, then you're welcome to come off. All the way in the rear.
Okay.
Last car on track 13.
Yeah, I saw a clip on Facebook of that episode about a month ago, and
Yeah.
it's like, cool, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah, there's a little clip of it on YouTube of him just driving the car.
You can tell he's enjoying it when he said,
Yeah.
oh, this is so
Well,
cool.
And the irony is, I didn't know it at the time, but that was the first car I ever drove.
Oh, really?
Sure, yeah. It's relatively easy. I heard somebody asking about the big clock thing.
Yes.
Okay. As people paid their fares, the conductor who rode in the rear of the car, he would pull the cord, and that would cause that to ring up one person. It would also make a ding noise. So if I was, one of the bosses at the trolley company, I could sneak on board right along, and if I saw passengers getting on and off, and I didn't hear that thing going ding, ding, ding when people were getting on and off, I knew the conductor was letting people ride for free. All of a sudden, also, if it said 213, there better be that much fare that the conductor is handing in at the end of the day, too. So it was just a way of keeping everybody honest.
What is
That's like a total. So, like, you could clear out the in and change that to out, and it would keep adding up like a master count on the top. So if I pulled her once, it would go to 214, and it would go to 52, 6, 7.
So you couldn't even skew the lower number because there's always a total count.
Right.
Smart.
Yeah. they had you covered every which way.
Yeah.
Some trolley companies even had electric meters in their trolley, so they could monitor the electricity usage of the operator. When we're moving at a slower speed, unlike a car that you're using less gasoline, we use the same amount of electricity whether we're going fast or slow. When we're going slow, it channels the electricity through resistors under the car. So you're wasting electricity in resistors, basically making a toaster underneath the car. So the goal is to get it up to full speed and then shut it off and coast. So it's a little trick, takes a little knack to it, but when George heads out, you'll see what I mean.
What's the long brass handle?
That's like a parking brake, a handbrake. So for some reason we needed to sit somewhere for a period of time. Right now the air brakes are holding us in place, but if power went out, eventually the air would bleed off and the car could drift away. So.
There sounds like there's a motor starting.
Yeah, that's the air compressor underneath the car. You know, it maintains like 80 pounds of pressure. When it drops below that, it'll kick on and bingo.
Do they have that on the original cars?
Oh yeah.
Compressor?
Yep. We good? Alrighty.
We are.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's keep the little ones in the middle.
Remember the man said on the train, like when the child was moving, he said no.
The headlight switch. There you go.
nice birthday. Is he coming in this way?
I got the front doors open. At the window. With that, we're going to close the doors and take off. We're going to take
I got a bunch of older people standing up. They'll have to see before I can go. going on. According to the schedule, this is the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the real speaker I named Desire. It was featured in the Time magazine article and the playbill material for Tennessee Wilderness Play. Here comes the rain.
Yep.
everybody to please remain seated while the car is in motion. Oh, sorry.
I was going to do that,
Okay.
but that's okay. But anyway, you know, when I was young, I lived in that wonderful city of Philadelphia. Everybody knows it's a wonderful city, right? Well, lots of street cars. One of the first things my mother told me was, don't do this. Think about putting your hand on a sill. And I quickly understood why his windows would come down. They're old. It's a friction window. When it starts going through switches, it might shake just enough to loosen it. So keep your hands, your heads, everything out of the window, and also remain seated during the ride. I think we'll have a pretty good time.
Okay.
didn't get lunch. Do you have any more pizza?
You can
I'll
have
run in
this
and
one.
grab you.
That's okay.
Sorry for stopping you guys. Thank you so much.
That's fine.
All right, so that was the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, and that was a really neat experience, getting to see those trolleys running and getting to see tour of the display building where they have all the others on display. Learn a bit about the history and everything. There's a lot of nice museums around, but when they have operating equipment like that, that's definitely something that is a bonus for a museum, I think. Need to repave this road, that's for sure. Should kind of drink of water from the cooler. So, anyways, on to the next stop of the trip. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to be speeding up the video here in a sec because I need to have some music on, and I want to avoid any copyright infringement on YouTube, so it's going to be sped up, but imagine we're in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood and we're doing that flyover, or the model neighborhood that he always had whenever he went anywhere, so enjoy the next leg of the trip, folks. anybody is keeping track of where we are in the trip, the town we passed through a little bit ago was Greensburg. Pit stop at the McDonald's there. If you're wondering why I pulled over there at the one spot on 70, for some reason my camera battery was running out. Squirrel, get out of the way. Thank you. And so I had to stop and change battery to avoid interrupting the trip. Anyways, we're now west of Latrobe, Pennsylvania. We should be coming up on the next stop, I believe. To the cemetery. Look, I bet I've just passed that. Because I don't remember that roundabout. Yeah, we'll turn around here. So it's going to be on the right this time. There's a two-lane road I turned onto. Battery's acting like it's getting ready to go. St. Vincent. Where am I? Okay. I'm turning around. roundabout threw me off. Before the roundabout. So I don't remember going into a town area or anything like that. This reminds me of 2003. I came over to go to Altoona, got lost in downtown Pittsburgh because my exit was closed. Got back on 79, headed back to through the Fort Pitt Tunnel, stopped at Days Inn, and went up to the lady at the front desk, and I was like, "This is gonna sound crazy coming from a guy, but I'm lost." So she got a laugh out of that. So I did too. Change this battery. Batteries are just dying like crazy. Change this battery. My bearings. Okay, so after consulting Google Maps on my phone, as well as the helpful guidance of a nice jogger who happened to just be going past. Actually, the guy that we just passed before I stopped, he apparently I did miss the turn. I knew we went underneath the railroad tracks. I was right with my notes. Left on the right-hand turn. Okay. Actually, the former Pennsylvania Railroad we're going under here. There it is. southern. After Pennsylvania, it was Penn Central, then Conrail. So, used to be a 4-track main. Now it's 2 with local siding. So Unity Cemetery is actually our next spot on the west side of Latrobe. Wondering, if you haven't figured it out yet, why we're coming to Unity Cemetery. This is actually where Mr. Rogers was laid to rest back after he passed away. Up that way. Go this way. Right about where it's at. I was over here in 2015. Interesting thing happened when I was over here too. I was sitting on the steps outside the mausoleum where he is laid to rest, and heat started getting to me. It was Labor Day weekend 2015, and heat started getting to me, and you know, I'm talking to him like he talked to us when he was on TV, and anyways, about halfway through, I was sitting there and talking to him, heat started getting to me, and I said out loud, "It's really getting warm out here. I might have to cut our visit short, or my visit short." And so anyways, right as soon as I said that, the wind changed direction and it turned from hot and muggy to cool and refreshing. Okay, so I see it. I should have gone left instead, right? But oh well. So, the sudden change in the temperature, right when I mentioned cutting my visit short because of the heat, I think he was watching over me and enjoying my being here coming to visit him. So, I think he had a hand in that, so. Cared a lot about everybody. He's definitely a wonderful, caring man. Wish I could have met him in person, but okay. If we go left here. This is the way I came in the last time because I missed the turn. So I'm gonna turn around here and we'll park back facing. There's this mausoleum here on the corner here on the left. It's got the name given on it. So this is the view from the cemetery. Beautiful scenery. Very fitting that he got a nice view right here. It's just inside on the left. We can't go in because the doors are locked. But I'm going to take a few minutes to talk to him, and we'll continue back at the Jeep. Well, got back to the Jeep just as it started to sprinkle. This whole day has so far been hit and miss with the Mother Nature in the shower, so. Anyways, adjust the camera a little bit. Hopefully a little bit better luck at getting to Saxonburg. So just go down to the Cemetery X entrance and then hang a left to get around to the north. Pretty cemetery. Of course, out here, the whole area is beautiful. Beautiful scenery. Sure beats all the farmland and stuff that I see over back home. Granted, nothing wrong with farming, but take big mountains and lots of trees over fields, empty fields, and all that. So anyways, yeah, I guess I mentioned it. Next stop is going to be Saxonburg. So like the first leg of the trip, or this last leg of the trip from Washington to here, I'm going to have music on, so I'm going to be fast forwarding through the trip for anyone on YouTube so that we don't have any copyright infringement claims. So okay, so I guess this is it. See which way this car is going. Staying on the road. Okay, so I'm left here. And I'll be back then when we get to Saxonburg. Enjoy this leg of the trip. Well, this leg of the trip has taken longer than I expected. Missed a turn somewhere. Google Maps had me going on a really goofy route through Pennsylvania countryside. Saxonburg Boulevard. Okay. And should be coming up in Saxonburg here in a couple minutes. But anyways, I missed a turn somewhere, and whoa, why am I going south? I should be going north. I think I just made another wrong turn. So let's look at the continue here. There went everything in the back. From what? Turn too soon. Let's see. Saxonburg, yep, 3 miles that way. I saw Saxonburg Boulevard, which I'm supposed to turn onto, but that was taking me in the wrong direction. Because when I made my wrong turn earlier, somehow I ended up southwest of Saxonburg instead of coming up from southeast, so it's only 3 miles away, so I'm close. I'm hungry too. It's 7:45 in the evening. Thankfully they're open till 11, I believe, tonight, so some train tracks. I wonder what route that is. Oh no. No new traffic patterns, come on. I'm trying to get to dinner. Heading home shouldn't be as difficult. Has me making a couple routes to Interstate 79, and that should get me south through Pittsburgh. I've got one fully charged battery, and then the one that's in the camera now, which I'll charge during dinner. And what is this? So I am hoping I'll be able to do a video of the drive through Pittsburgh to round out this video. So okay, so let's go slight left to Saxon Boulevard, and of course it's in the midst of all this wonderful construction. So anyways, so why am I going to the Hotel Saxonburg for dinner? Well, like the Trolley Museum, Hotel Saxonburg back in 1982 was the Saxonburg Hotel, and that's where Mr. Rogers took us for dinner, or, well, I don't know what meal exactly he went for, but he took us there to see how a restaurant worked, basically. And Audrey Roth, who sadly passed away not too long ago, she was working there as a waitress, and she showed him to a table and got him water and a menu, and then ordered him, he placed an order for a sandwich to go, and she took him back to the kitchen to see how the sandwich was made, and he got to help out, and then he paid up for a sandwich, which was $1.87, which for cheese, lettuce, and tomato and mayo on whole wheat was I thought a bit expensive. Make it cheaper at home, but anyways, you know, we got to see how stuff was made, so, or done in a restaurant, so, which is one thing I always liked about the show, was, you know, getting to see how things are made, how things work, and that kind of thing. You know, he inspired us, you know, not only about how, you know, our feelings about ourselves and each other, but, you know, he introduced us to the world around us, and, you know, I think for a lot of folks stimulated, you know, learning, whether it was music or arts or, you know, whatever they were interested in, you know, pursuing an interest in learning about the world around them, which I think is a lasting legacy of his show. And speed's coming down, so please let this be Saxonburg. I won't be able to get any video at the inside of the restaurant. I'm not going to do that, but I'll see if I can get some pictures of my meal. That's it in the video too, so. Just turn right on West Main, which I think it's coming up here. Yep, West Main Street. Alright. Why my phone has Google Maps on it. That is a voice error. And there's the hotel on the left. I have to park down here. Down there's an end one where it's not crowded. Shoot. I did not realize that was a curb. That or it's just obviously this street was not meant for larger vehicles. And just park down here, away from everything. Rub the curb. Well, taking off from Saxonburg. Dinner, as you saw in the pictures, was delicious. So, and back down the way we came. For those of you wondering what I got for dinner, I got the seafood pasta, which comes with fettuccine, your choice of Alfredo or marinara sauce. I got marinara sauce, and shrimp, scallops, and mussel. Mussel was okay, didn't really care for that, but the shrimp and scallops were delicious, as was the fettuccine noodles. And yep, with the headlights on bright. Anyways, instead of the salad, I got a side order of French fries. Well, I do vegetables. I just not a salad person, so. But then I had a Coke for to drink, and half tempted to get a something for dessert, but opted against that because I got a lengthy drive coming up home, and I don't want to get so full that I get sleepy. So, anyways, recapping the trip. Trolley Museum. Totally awesome, and you know, getting to see the trolleys and actually ride on them too. That was really nice too. And so then made it to Latrobe. Missed a turn going there, unfortunately, but wasn't too far off, so I had to visit with Mr. Rogers, and then finally made it to Saxonburg, and it was worth the drive. The dinner was delicious, and friendly staff there. I gave the waitress a good tip. She did a good job, and the food was excellent. So definitely worth the effort getting there. So anyways, it's trying to rain. It looks like. Anyways, luckily, rain has held off and things worked out with that. So when I left Columbus, it was starting to pour down rain. Let up by the time I got east of Columbus, and then I was at the Trolley Museum. It started to sprinkle there. Of course, that gave me time to go inside the museum to check everything out there. And bought a couple of t-shirts book and fridge magnet there. So, little souvenirs from the trip, and got a full tummy from a delicious dinner. So, might have to stop and get gas on the way home. Almost down to halfway. Of course, done a lot of backtracking on 2 legs of the trip. So anyways, yeah, then sprinkles start in on the way to Saxonburg, and it's trying to sprinkle now. So hopefully not too bad for the drive home. So. So anyways, okay, we're at 228 now. So if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to speed this up here for the drive through Pittsburgh. So. Enjoyed the rest of this trip. Hope you enjoyed the earlier parts too. So enjoy the last leg here. Well, folks, as you can probably tell by now, we're back on Interstate 70 West, heading back to the Buckeye State and home. And thankfully, we're on the main road because I am quite tired. And it's 10:46 p.m. Still in Pennsylvania, although we're west of 79, so we're right past where the YouTube video started. So, anyways, as you can tell, we've been going in and out of the rain. Last rest area, I checked the radar. It's nothing but red and orange and yellow to the west. It's moving east, so hopefully we'll be through it faster than normal on orbits. Nice flashes of lightning there. So hopefully it's just rain, nothing severe, no tornadoes or anything like that. And lightning and thunder is always nice. It's I find it kind of relaxing, but so as long as no damage or anything like that, no one gets hurt. Kind of spooky coming down 79, pouring down rain, and going low over the speed limit because I'm trying not to get run over at the same time. I'm not familiar with the road, and are just flying up behind me, right up on my back bumper, and then they swerve over into the next lane to go around, and it's like, okay, seriously, I'm doing over the speed limit. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed this trip. So I definitely enjoyed it. Mr. Rogers was still with us, and I know he would have enjoyed it. He loved the Trolley Museum, and I know he liked that Hotel Saxonburg where he took us in that episode. So I really liked the food there, he said in that episode. So I know he would have liked it. So in spirit, I'm sure he was with me for this trip, so enjoying it. So. Anyways, hopefully next year the weather will cooperate a little bit more. Won't get lost and maybe do it again. So, but anyways, thanks for riding along, folks. Take it easy.